EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause, joined by John McMullen. Week 10, game week, everybody. Eagles versus Cowboys. Big division rival here coming up this weekend. Doesn't quite feel like a Cowboys week, but we will play the game nonetheless. Johnny Mac, how you doing in this Football Friday, brother?
Trying to get some juice. Typically, you don't need some juice for Dallas and Philadelphia, but
Yeah,
now
true.
it's Dallas and Washington. Everybody's looking ahead. It's human nature, but not a good thing.
Well, two straight NFC East games in 5 days. Johnny Mac had, I think that has some effect on it also. I know Dallas is banged up, but you never want to play down an opponent, and you never want to put the cart before the horse when it comes to a victory. And I think I know this Dallas team is banged up. They don't look very good, but you don't want to write them off. Go out there and handle business, and then they got to look ahead.
As I say, it's human nature. I don't like to call them trap games. I like to call them human nature games. But
right.
I mean, if it's just the fan base, that's fine. But if it's the players, that's what you got to worry about. And hopefully they're locked in because, the NFL, we see it all the time. Things like that happen. So as long as the players are locked in and not worried, not looking ahead, I think you're going to be fine. And, they're taught that, they're drilled into their heads, but that's why I call it human nature.
Yeah.
Everybody can say that, but bottom line is anytime you're facing a backup quarterback, there's that natural reaction of sort of letting out a breath and saying, oh, all right, we're going to have a little bit easier of a path. So it is something, maybe I'm trying to get some juice for the Cowboys and get this rivalry heated up. But right now, it doesn't feel like a typical, especially considering the Eagles haven't won there since 2017, I believe, 27. And they've been getting, not just losing, they've been getting whacked when they go down there, typically losing by about 16, 17 points a game over that span. So
yeah, well, Cowboys have been getting throttled in their own home this year. They've lost a couple games by a wide margin. We're talking 30 plus.
Yeah, they're averaging. They're giving up a ton of points at home. It's very strange because usually very difficult place to play. Not as strange now with the injuries.
Team, John. I just don't think they're a good team. I know it's a tough
No,
place
it
to
seems
play,
that
but they're not
way.
a good team.
Obviously now there's some, when you start losing your star players, I mean, that explains a lot of it. But even before that, they weren't playing like most people expected. So I think that's fair to say. And Mike Zimmer, yeah, man. Ooh, that guy used to be the guy. He used to be Vic Fangio, believe it or not. Everybody copying his A-gap stuff, and game seems to have passed him by a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, both of us got an older coordinator right on defense, and one of them's working out, at least for so far, with Vic Fangio in Philly and Mike Zimmer. I don't know what's going on with that defense. They're giving up the second most points in the NFL. They are not good, John McMullen. Not good. Should be a good day for the Eagles offense to kind of find some rhythm and get going.
Yeah, hopefully. I know they're hoping to get Micah back, and it looks like he's going to be able to play. So that's big for them. Deron Bland, though, hasn't practiced this week, so it doesn't look like he's coming back this week, unless there's something miraculous going on today. Trayvon Diggs is limited, but he's got a calf injury. I know all about those. That I harken back to Russell Wilson. Oh, he might play, and he's gone for 6 weeks or whatever it was. A lot of NFL's got to tighten up on those injury reports, man, because they were bullshitting about Christian McCaffrey early in the season. They were bullshitting about Russell Wilson early in the season. They got to tighten that stuff up. But I get some of that kind of feel with Trayvon Diggs. So if you don't have either of them, that's a concern. I think CD Lamb's going to try to play, but Obviously, he's not going to be 100%. Zach Martin hasn't practiced this week.
I mean, it just keeps getting worse for that team, John.
Yeah. So, and obviously, Dak Prescott, I assume people know he's not going to play. So that's the most notable one. Yeah, everything's set up for the Eagles. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, how about the Eagles' injuries, John? Any update? It looks like everybody might end up playing
Everybody's
in this
back.
game.
Everybody's back. So, they're the exact opposite. They had the long injury report on Wednesday. So, I think people got concerned, but it was all just sort of load management stuff for the most part. The three guys who didn't practice at all were Fred Johnson, Nolan Smith, Ben Van Sumeren. Brad says he's playing. So, and he was back out there yesterday. Nolan says he's playing, and he was back out there yesterday. Now, Ben was also practicing, but he's in the concussion protocol, so that's a little bit different. I know he wants to play. I know he could play. But again, we've said that numerous times. That's out of the Eagles' hands. And he's got to go through the protocol, which tends to be difficult these days in 1 week. But he feels fine. So they're about as healthy as you can be, besides the typical, nicks and bruises. Saquon obviously said he's fine. He's playing, no issues. Micah, saw him getting his ankle taped, but he's playing. AJ's out there. Bryce Huff said he's fine and he's playing. That's an interesting story. He said he could have played last week. Dallas is going. Dallas Goedert, so he'll be back. Cam Jurgens was back at practice. Slay has practiced both days and is back to being full, so he should be back. Josh Sweat, there was a little bit of concern with him. He popped up. He was back. So, yeah, almost a full go, with the exception of the concussion protocol thing with Ben. Compared to the Dallas, that's pretty good.
Yeah, good stuff. And it looks like Micah might be back for the Cowboys this weekend, right? He practiced yesterday in full pad. Yeah, so
I
we'll
think
see
he's going to play.
Yeah,
And that does, and I know from talking to Nick and everybody, Jonathan Gannon, Sean Desai, Matt Patricia, and now Vic. I mean, just how good of a defensive player he is. And then from the offensive perspective, all the offensive coaches from Nick to Shane and Brian Johnson and now Kellen Moore, everybody is worried about him first and foremost.
Yeah.
And game planning about him.
Yeah, we'll see what he's able to do. John, we got a super chat about last night. I'm going to ask you about last night's game as well. Prince Swayze checks in. Cowboys have not won a single game home this season. Yeah, we should be able to take advantage of them again.
Green Bay broke them, by the way.
Yeah. Yep.
They were undefeated last year going into the playoffs.
They were undefeated for, I think, dating back.
Yeah,
It was like dating back.
They were the best. I don't know how far it dated back, but last year they were undefeated. They were the best team at home in the NFL, and Green Bay went in there, Aaron Jones specifically, and destroyed them. That's why I was so concerned. That's why I was wondering why Green Bay gave up on Aaron Jones. And it's working out for both. Aaron's having a very good year, and Josh Jacobs is performing well. So I guess they got younger. But anyway, yeah, Green Bay seems to have broke them.
Yeah, good stuff there. Josh B., I see your super chat about Johnny Mac's tweet that got some juice yesterday. We will talk about that in just a second. Before I do that, Prince Swayze checks in. Good morning. The Bengals lost to the Chiefs by 1 and the Ravens by 1, but they lost to the Eagles by 20. Am I missing something here? Zander, Prince, I don't think at all.
You may have heard me say the transitive property does not work in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
The assumption that teams play the same against everybody is probably the most flawed fan thing there is, and the assumption that any team plays the same themselves each and every week is incredibly flawed. So, yeah, you can't say, oh, the Eagles destroyed Cincinnati. They played Baltimore by 1 point. The Eagles are better than Baltimore. That's the transitive property. Good luck with that. I mean, Eagles played well. Cincinnati did not. Cincinnati played well, at least offensively. Probably should have won the game. Got screwed at the end.
Yeah, what'd you make of all the coaching stuff? A lot of talk about Zach Taylor again last night. Kind of reminds me
Yeah,
of
he
Nick
did the right
Sirianni
thing.
conversation. I think he went for
Unquestionably.
it on almost every fourth down.
Maybe he learned from doing the wrong thing against the Eagles. Did the right thing. They came in that game, and for those who watched it, Al Michaels and Herb Street said, with their production meetings, they were very focused. They knew they had to score points to win in Baltimore. So they were going to be very aggressive. They went for a fourth down early in the game, as opposed to being non-aggressive versus the Eagles. So they shifted gears. They did the right thing. Sometimes it doesn't work out. They had 2 penalties on the 2-point conversion that would have won the game. They missed them both. It's not much you can do, but so that's when we talk about good decisions don't guarantee good outcomes. They made the right decision. They got a poor outcome, but you can't control. What was the other game who got the quarterback got knocked in the face at the end of the game? Like that stuff is egregious from an officiating standpoint, because the quarterback is right in the middle of the field. Everybody's watching, not the officials. They have their little, but you have the 2 officials watching.
Yeah, that was the Darnold. That was the Darnold play in the end zone.
Sam Darnold against. Now they were probably not going to win the game. In this case, Cincinnati was going to win the game. He got smacked right in the face. Nothing. And then before that, there was a hold on the receiver, which should have been called. And I think Terry McCauley's Amazon's official, and he said both should have been called. And Al Michaels, at his age, is just frustrated. He's like, every week there's this. And I get why fans are frustrated. Yeah. I get why fans are frustrated. I never blame things on the officials because it's baked into it. I mean, it's very difficult.
Doesn't it feel like it's getting to a little bit of a bigger level now, though? Because I'm normally with you where it's like, all right, every game is going to be officiated. They're humans. They're not going to get everything right. But
yeah,
I mean,
it's such an easy fix. That's the frustrating part for me. Because if you drop this bullshit that we didn't create, the sky judge or whatever you want to call what they do in college, if you drop this bullshit and say, all right, it makes sense to do that, you correct it right away. Now, Baltimore fans are going to be upset in that instance, but who cares? I mean, if your goal is to try to get it right, and I think that's supposed to be the goal, it's easy to get it right. Just say, hey, stop the game, say, hey, guys, he got smacked in the face. Because the holding call, even though it was pretty clear, that's still a judgment 50-50. I don't even care if they ignore that. But when the quarterback gets smacked in the face in front of everybody, and this is the second time in a month, and you miss it, just fix it.
Right.
You got all these people in New York, and this is a standalone game. You don't have to worry about 16 games or whatever going on at the same time. Fix it.
I know. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. And it's also, not specifically here, but the over legislation of the game that you've been talking about for years is just
and that makes it harder on officials.
Exactly. That's what makes it harder, because now there's 4 million things that have to be called on any given play. Let's keep rolling here. Prince Swayze says, I got you, Prince. I see what you were saying. He says, I understand it relates to the transitive property. However, I'm referring to the Bengals side of it, since we haven't beaten anyone. So the narrative is, John, Eagles' schedule sucks again, and the combined record of their opponents this year is like 13 and 30 or something.
I say the same thing all the time. In 2022, everybody said they didn't beat anybody. Well, if you don't think anybody else is anybody, they're never going to beat anybody. some of these, I find the fans that say they haven't beat anybody are the fans that think, well, Detroit is the only team that would mean anything. All right, well, they're never going to beat them until they have an opportunity to beat Detroit.
Yeah, right.
And hopefully they're not going to beat anybody. If they beat Washington, you're going to hear, well, they're not ready, from that group of people I'm talking about. Well, it's a rookie quarterback. They're not ready. All of a sudden, they're going to become nobodies. And how I described it in 2022 is that the Eagles turn somebodies into nobodies, because after games, people would say, oh, they're nobody. If you think everybody's a nobody, you can never beat a somebody, I would say to those people.
That's a fair takeaway, John. We got another super chat on your tweet last night, which got some juice, Johnny Mac. Almost a 500,000 views on
tweet is this.
Your tweet about the NFL deleting the mic'd up video.
Oh, yeah. That figures. That's nothing tweet, but
yeah, I know, but I want to ask you what you think about it. Yeah, I mean, because you said weird. I didn't know what you were talking about. That they deleted it? You thought it was weird?
I deleted it, yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. No, yeah, a lot of people, I should know it's Twitter. X. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Elon. X.
Well, Josh B says, not really having fun. Is it sarcasm, professionalism, just a weird dude?
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about why they deleted it. There was nothing wrong with anything he said in the video.
Yeah, I do find it funny how people, like, I don't have an issue with Jalen doing that, but I do find it funny how people try and turn it into this big thing. But I guess we should know this based on what happened last year.
Well, and that's why I thought it was weird that they deleted it. Like, because she set off those people. Like,
now maybe this is an
and then they put it back up.
But I think of Kobe. Remember after Kobe won the first 2 games in the NBA Finals, and they're talking to him in the press room, and he's like, "You don't seem happy." He's like, "I'm not happy. What the hell is there to be happy about? Job's not finished." And I'm not saying that's what Jalen Hurts is going for, but
I think
it's funny how in that moment everyone's like, "Oh, I love Kobe," and then when Jalen does it, it's like he's a weirdo because he's not having fun mid game.
Yeah.
By the way, they should have been blowing that team out. Maybe he was pissed about that.
By the way, I should have known. I should have said it was weird. They took it down. I should have put those extra words on there, because that's what I was referring to. And I don't know why they took it down. I asked some people. Nobody knew. No, nobody. That would be at the highest levels, so nobody's going to know. But yeah, it was weird that they took it down. And then they put it back up. Probably when a couple of us noticed it was down, and then we said it was weird, basically.
So for the people, not everybody saw the video. So Prince says, what did he say? Basically, after Jalen threw that deep ball touchdown to Devontae Smith, the one in the end zone, which was a pretty insane catch by Devontae, Lane said to him, like, "You look like you're smiling. You having fun or something?" And he kind of said, "Not really." He didn't really care about having fun out there in that moment. I didn't have an issue with it at all.
Yeah, I had no issue with what Jalen said. I was, speaking of, but a bunch of us were talking about it. That's the mentality, right? 10-1, the most miserable team. Jalen's never having fun. That was a narrative. So from our standpoint, our job is to ask questions, and you start to say, well, did somebody say take this down? Again, nobody knows. Nobody even knew, from the Eagles that it was taken down from my perspective. But again, that would be at the highest level if you're getting them to take it down. And if that did happen, that's dumb by the Eagles. There's nothing wrong with what he said. Nothing wrong with what he did. That is his personality. Who cares at the end of the day? He is hyper-focused. He's not going to be the cheery, high energy. Everybody knows this. They see him. It's not his personality. Nothing wrong with it. The only thing wrong with it is they took it down for some weird reason. And they took it down off 2 accounts. They took it off I guess it was inside the NFL clip. So they took it off.
I don't know. Maybe it's not that weird, honestly. I mean, just the organization trying to protect the perspective, even whether it's right or wrong.
That was our thought, that the organization is trying to shut down this narrative that would have developed. And I don't know if that's what happened, but
which,
to me, you're creating a potential issue.
Do they
instead of
care too much about that? Like, and I'm
oh
not we don't
God,
know if they did, but, like, why do they even
God
give a
yeah,
shit, man?
God yeah, God yeah, they care too much. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. You're creating a problem that doesn't exist if you did that. And I don't know if they did it, but
Right.
could be a host of reasons. Inside the NFL might have said something for some reason. I don't know why they would. It was the official NFL account. It wasn't like it was the Eagles account. And it was back after a number of us pointed out it was gone. It's just weird. Weird.
Yeah, it was a kind of a weird situation. I thought it was a cool video though. And that was a great play, by the way, for
There's
Devontae Smith.
nothing wrong. Let me emphasize this. There's nothing wrong with the video or anything Jalen Hurts said. That's why it's weird.
It does feel like people reach on shit with Jalen
Oh my
sometimes.
God, they reach on shit. That's the whole point.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I feel I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm in Philly, but it does feel like that there's a little bit of a slanted treatment on stuff like that. Like really? Now we're talking about Jalen talking to Lane Johnson mid play on the field. Like, I don't give a shit, dude. Just go out there and play good football and and keep doing what you're doing. I
Well,
mean,
yeah. I mean, and to be fair, that happens to every quarterback in every city. But yeah, there's definitely way too much emphasis on shit like that. No
yeah,
question about it.
no doubt about it. John, I'm going to ask you. Looking at this game with the Cowboys coming up, where is the positive for this Cowboys team? Like, they have no Dak. I guess you get Micah back, but other than that, I don't. This team, their defense sucks. Their offense has not been good, and now you don't have Dak and maybe not CD. I mean, they got like nothing going for them right now, and that's kind of why it brings you into the
That's
trap
way
game.
you got to be. Yeah, human
But
nature. That's why you got to be careful.
really, just feels like they got nothing, John.
It felt like Jacksonville had nothing. They had a chance to win the game with
I never felt like
one
this
throw.
about Jacksonville.
Really? Jacksonville was freak dead in the water. I mean,
I
they had
know, but
no
they had Trevor
receivers.
Lawrence still. I mean, they had,
They had one receiver that couldn't play, but was playing because they had no other receivers. Yeah, they did have their starting quarterback.
which I think matters most. I mean, yesterday I got into a debate and I was
Well, if you're
asked,
going to boil it down to just the quarterback, yes, they were in a better situation. But I think it was more than that. I mean, they were incredibly banged up.
yeah,
And very similar situation, except they're even worse from a talent perspective to start. Yeah, I thought Jacksonville was even deader in the water, if that's possible. But yeah, I mean, and the Eagles should have beaten them and did for the vast majority of the game, beat them pretty handily. But again, we go back to the officials. Unfortunately, I hate talking about officials, and I'm only talking about officials. The Saquon play doesn't happen. It's probably nobody's talking about all this other stuff because it's an easy win, but it happens. And by the Saquon play, I'm talking not the jump, the fumble.
yeah.
It's a bad call. What are you going to do? There's not much you can do about it.
I mean, we had Todd Archer on last night on our Thursday night show this week in pro football with Pat Callahan. Todd Archer is the ESPN reporter for the Cowboys, similar to like Tim McManus is for the Eagles for ESPN. And he came on and he's like, yeah, the best part of this Cowboys team right now, the best thing they have going for them, is their kicker, Brandon Aubrey. And as
Yeah, he's
great as
pretty good
Brandon
too,
is,
man.
you never want your kicker to be the best thing you have going for you. And that kind of gives you the state of the Cowboys. And he said that, and I'm like, oh boy, even the guys who are covering them are just saying this team is
Well,
not in a good spot.
remember the Cowboys are used to having success, so that
Yeah, I mean, 3
factors
straight seasons
into
of
it.
12
Yeah,
wins. I mean, they're normally a competent team.
yeah, that factors into it as well. Whereas Jacksonville's not used to having that kind of success, but so that everybody thought the Cowboys were going to be a contender again. A lot of people thought they'd be out in the first round again, and certainly, Jerry Jones has made some poor decisions, but everybody harped on Jerry in the offseason for, waiting and not paying this guy, but he pays them in the end, as I warned everyone. And he admitted he likes to keep his team in the headlines. He's a moron. But, they still had a bunch of good players, and things have gone in a negative direction from an injury standpoint. And the Eagles need to take advantage of it. But, Micah Parsons alone, if he's coming back, I mean, that's one of the 2 or 3 best defensive players in football. And everybody says it. I know Eagles fans don't like to hear it, but again, the Eagles defensive coaches, the Eagles offensive coaches, one of the few times I've heard them, I always talk about the Eagles' cockiness, their hubris. They think they're, when people say, oh, they're going to do this, are they worried about this? The answer 99% of the time is no. They're not worried about it. Insert cornerback versus A.J. Brown, not worried about it. Insert, can we run the ball in the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL? Go back to 2021. They did it 3 times. Not worried about it. With Micah, the whole thing is, if you can't block him, read him. They acknowledge they can't block him.
Or run at his ass. He can't stop the run very well either.
Well, that's part of the
reading them.
If you can't block them, read them. And they try to take advantage of that. And they have, for the most part. They've been pretty successful about it. But I mean, very rare. That I'm trying to give people an example of what they think about that particular player. They don't admit that kind of stuff usually. And they admit it with him.
Yep. John, another big storyline, I think, in this game is going to be Saquon Barkley. Could be giving away another jersey this week, everybody, depending on how close this game is and how much Saquon plays. But that Cowboys run defense, not good. Their first-round draft pick from a couple of years ago, Mozzie Smith, not good.
Yeah, that hasn't worked out for him.
No, it has not worked out for him at all. They're rushing. I'll give you some stats on their run defense and kind of get your perspective on what we think Saquon's going to do in this game. They are rushing yards allowed per game. They're up to 147.8, which is ranked 30th in the NFL. Rushing first downs allowed per game is 9.1, 31st in the NFL. Rushing touchdowns allowed, they've given up 13 rushing touchdowns, 31st in the NFL. Rushing yards per attempt allowed is at 4.6, it's 23rd in the NFL. And then opponent rushing attempts per game, 31.9. Teams just running all over the Cowboys. That's 31st in the NFL. I mean, they can't stop the run on defense at all. Could this be another big day for Saquon Barkley, John?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, obviously it could be. I do, and I go back to Baltimore because Baltimore is last in the NFL in passing defense. Part of that is because nobody can run on them with Madubuike inside. I mean, Roquan, and nobody can run on them, so they don't bother trying. Sort of like the opposite with Dallas. But now, because Dallas has all the playmakers in the secondary, but now they don't have playmakers in the secondary. If Bland's not out there, Diggs is not out there. So, I think this is one of those games where you just see how it's going and you take advantage of what's going. Because right now they can't lean on anything. Like Baltimore can lean on their run defense and and then all of a sudden Jamar Chase is getting 264 yards passing yardage, which is unbelievable, by the way. So a lot of it is baked into that, but now they don't have Bland and they don't have Diggs. And it's like, maybe, if Andrew Booth is going to be out there, maybe you take advantage of that. So the Eagles are in a good position to where they should be able to do essentially a bunch of different things. And then you go with the hot hand. Is basically, and that's for their basic philosophy every week.
Yeah, right. Take what the defense is giving or what's working on any given Sunday. I just do think that running story is going to be interesting. Now, Micah, we mentioned Micah coming back, John. I like that matchup for them because you don't have Mailata out there. What do you expect to see from how they scheme Micah up? Maybe they try and, get him a mismatch. Last year, I think I remember they got him on Tyler Steen a lot, who filled in for.
Yeah, well, they should. They should try to take advantage. I don't think they've done that enough.
Yeah, under Zimmer. It's been less under Zimmer, I think, with last year they had Dan Quinn.
And I don't even think they did it enough with Dan Quinn. To me, if I were a defensive coordinator, I mean, basically because of Micah's versatility, I'd pick the worst offensive lineman and just say, all right, that's who I'm going. That's where I'm going. Because he can rush inside, he can rush outside, he can rush both sides. Remember, they drafted him to be an off-ball linebacker, which is, they get way too much credit for that, by the way. Because they were like everybody else. Oh, he's too short to be a pass rusher. His arms are too short to be a pass rusher. They were like everybody else. They thought he was going to be an off-ball linebacker.
I hope we shut his ass out so I can
know
yell,
you
I can
don't
yell
like
at you and Kerr on Monday.
You don't like Micah Parsons.
No, I like him. I like him. I don't think he's generational.
I'm talking about the player. And he can do, and everybody. And I'm kind of proud of that because I said he was an edge rusher. Jody can tell you that. I said he was an edge rusher the whole way. So that's one I got right. But I couldn't. It mystified me. It was sort of like Hassan Reddick all over again. It really was. It was like everybody's like turning this great pass rusher. Well, but he can't do it at this level because in Micah's case, his arms were too short. And I'm like, well, let's see if he can't do it at this level. Because they a lot of people said the same stuff about Aaron Donald. Oh, he's too small. And Aaron Donald turned into Aaron Donald.
Yeah,
so
right.
There's some guys who are so gifted physically, and he's that type of guy. So anyway, I don't think Dan Quinn used him right. I don't think Micah Zimmer's using him right. And he's still basically one of the 2 or 3 best defensive players in the game. So
you still think you still got him as a generational talent?
Oh God, yeah. Like I just said, the one thing, look at all well, I say this all the time because I got to cover Randy Moss and Adrian Peterson. Those are the 2 guys. Now I get to cover Saquon Barkley. You saw the reaction to the Saquon Barkley play from his teammates, from I think it was Shield Kapati said, from the 1% of the 1%. That's always when I know when these guys are in awe of somebody, and they are with Saquon. So that'll make Eagles fans happy. But they're in awe of Micah. Same way. Again, you never hear the Eagles talk about players like they talk about Micah Parsons. That's when it clicks and it says, all right, this guy's special. This guy's special. And there's very few in that category. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a Hall of Fame player like Randy Moss, because Michael Vick had the same gravitas, and he's not a Hall of Fame level player. People are just awed by his athleticism. But he's not at that level of player as like a Randy Moss was, as an example of somebody who I covered, who's, first ballot, no doubt about Hall of Famer at his particular position. Mike is, though. He's already produced at that level. So, yeah, I know Eagles fans don't like it. They love it if they were able to get him. Trust me, he's phenomenal. You can't block him.
I don't know, man. I get it. I know he's a great player, and I'm not saying you're wrong about some of the way we criticize him and how much we love. It'd be like Saquon, right? We used to criticize Saquon. Now he's here, and we love him to death. But we had Tony Casillas on, former 2nd overall pick, guy who played in Dallas a long time, and he had a lot of harsh words to say about Micah Parsons. He said, and the reason he had harsh words is because he's this unbelievable talented player, and he's not doing what he needs to do to extract all that talent.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to pick on Tony Casillas, but I mean, what more could he do Now this year he's been hurt, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not talking about more this year. I mean, he said
So,
he doesn't show up when they need him the most.
well, yeah, well, they're talking about the playoffs. Sorry, he's the best defensive player in football, and they lose in the playoffs, and it's his fault.
Well,
You know,
Tony didn't say that. No, I can put words.
well, I'm talking about. I'm not saying you said it.
Yeah.
This is all right. Let's look. 2023, so his second year. I wouldn't even look at his rookie year because they started at him at off-ball linebacker like a bunch of morons. 16 sacks, 19 quarterback hits, 71 hurries. 71 freaking hurries. 2020, 74 hurries. I mean, these numbers are unfathomable. I mean, they're just ridiculous.
Eagles have a tall task blocking him this week, John, with no Mailata.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a tall.
I mean, they're just going to line him up on Fred, though, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. They typically don't take advantage of that. I criticize Dan as much as they should.
I mean, they can line him up on Lane Johnson. They can
line him up on Cam Jurgens if they wanted to. That's how versatile he is. I don't think the Cowboys have taken up advantage of that type of thing. Now, he's been out. He's had an ankle injury. He's limited. I don't know if he's going to be 100%. But yeah, I can't get on board with the people that criticize him. And some of it's the podcast and his personality and all that crap.
Oh, that's definitely a big part of it.
Which I don't care about. You know, I was talking about stops with Zach Baun yesterday because I don't care about tackles. You know, if they're 7 yards down the field and things like that. This guy gets 58 stops last year, 42 stops, and he's playing on the line. I mean, yeah, yeah, they haven't succeeded. It's the same thing. He's the defensive Lamar, basically. You know, Lamar gets criticized, the best player in the world, Lamar Jackson. Anybody saw him last night? He's the best football player in the world. All due respect to Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson is the best football player in the world. He's going to win the MVP again if he continues at this level. And nobody's going to give a shit until he wins in the playoffs. Everybody's going to criticize him. That's what Mike has been defensively. You don't see those numbers. But until he wins in the playoffs, people are going to criticize, which I get, but doesn't mean he's not a good player. He's not out there by himself.
No doubt. John, another guy that's pretty good in the Cowboys team. I don't know if he's going to play or not yet. CeeDee Lamb, do we have an update? I mean, I think he practiced.
I think he's going to play, but
yeah,
again, he's limited. He practiced. He was limited Wednesday and Thursday. I assume he's going to try to play. But he's got an AC joint injury, so there's no way he's going to be 100%. I think it's going to be similar to Brian Thomas last week. You know, he played, but he wasn't his self. He wasn't his effective self. I expect the same thing from CeeDee Lamb this week. So,
well, I mean, I'll just give you some stats. Last year, CeeDee Lamb in his 2 games versus the Eagles, he combined for 17 catches for 262 yards. So he had his way with the birds last year. What's the game plan to kind of take him out of it? If you take him out, I don't know where they can beat you on offense.
Yeah, well, they're in trouble, and they can't run the ball, so they can't just sort of manage their way through the game with Cooper Rush. Yeah, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. What do you have? 262, you said?
262 in 2 games. With the 1 game, remember, he had 11 catches for 191.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Jamar Chase last night because he had 263 last night. And 262 in 2 games is pretty.
Your take on
good.
Jamar Chase is proving to be correct for the people that had an issue with it.
Well, the Eagles did a good job. The transitive property, they did a good job on him. And the Eagles deserve credit for that, but that is one hell of a player, Jamar Chase.
264, I think he had last night.
264? Yeah. I knew he was in the 260s.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, CD's a very good player, but he's not healthy. So that's a big advantage. They, they, the Cowboys are bad at running back. They're banged up at receiver. Their offensive line. Zach Martin's going to Hall of Fame. He hasn't practiced this week. Defensive line, linebackers, secondary. Eagles should have an advantage at every position because of the way things are physically for Dallas. Every position. And the Eagles will have everybody available with the exception of perhaps Ben Van Sumeren. And they'd like to have him available because they love him as a fullback now. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to lose this game. And same thing with Jacksonville. How do you lose the game? Something crazy's got to happen. Something crazy did happen in the Jacksonville game that gave Jacksonville an opportunity. Right. Something like that's going to have to happen.
Well, I gave you the stats for the Cowboys rushing defense and made the case for why Saquon might have a good day. You just mentioned the rushing offense. Rushing yards per game, 82, 31st in the NFL. Rushing first downs per game, 5.3, 28th in the NFL. Rushing touchdowns, 3, 31st in the NFL. Yards per rush, 3.8, 30th in the NFL. Rushing attempts per game, 21.6, 32nd in the NFL. They can't rush the ball very well, John. I mean, it's CeeDee Lamb or bust in this game for the Cowboys offense.
And I know they're all upset because they didn't get Derrick Henry.
Yeah, but Todd Archer spoke about that last night. He's like, if people think Derrick Henry would be doing in Dallas what he's doing in
well, I agree.
Right
Nobody
now,
thinks that way. Todd's 100% right. I talk about it all the time. The assumption that, I used to go back to the Jefferson Rager discussion. The assumption that Jefferson would have put up the numbers that he put up with the high volume quarterback and the guy.
No, he wouldn't have. We had Hurts and at that time I guess we had Wentz still, right?
Yeah. It's insanity, but people believe that. They assume, well, he got 1,600 yards here, so he's going to get saved. No, it doesn't work that way.
Right. Maybe Jefferson could have saved. Wentz. Maybe Jefferson could have saved Wentz's career in Philly, John. Remember that last year?
He would have been. He would have been really good. I'm not trying to defend the Eagles.
Well, I mean, look, a lot was made of that 4-win season with Carson, his last one, and he had Rager and Fulgham. He was throwing down.
Well, in this case with Derrick Henry, and Todd's 100% right, but he would have been a hell of a lot better than what they're rolling out there. That's the point. But yeah, he's absolutely right that he wouldn't be doing what he's doing in Baltimore with Dallas. But that's not how fans see it. They just translate it to that production into Dallas, which is, again, back to the transitive property. It doesn't work that way.
Pretty crazy stuff. John, any other things that you look at when you look at this game from afar, just that stick out to you? I mean, we talked about the two big players on Dallas with Micah and CD. Outside of those two guys, I mean, not very good for them. Anything else that sticks out to you that could make a difference in this game?
They're not from their perspective. They're in deep.
Maybe Brandon Aubrey has like 460 yards.
65 yarder to win it. They might have the advantage. If either team needs a 65 yarder to win it, I like the Cowboys there. That's about maybe the only advantage.
If we get to that position, the Eagles did a lot wrong to get to that position. If that's how it ends up.
Yeah, well, again, you're going to have something crazy, but something crazy happens, it seems, in every NFL game. So, and something crazy happened against Jacksonville, and there they were, taking a shot to win the game. A bad shot, but taking a shot to win the game. Happens all the time in the NFL. I don't think it's going to happen here, but I didn't think it was going to happen last week, and certainly didn't think it was going to happen after it was 22-0 and they gave up 36 yards with 9 minutes left in the third quarter. I was pretty comfortable saying, Eagles are going to win this game. And Jacksonville got a shot, and people can blame, Nick Sirianni, as most people, whatever you want to blame it on. They had a shot. By the way, Joe Banner, did you see Joe Banner? Joe Banner coming to my rescue. Thanks, Joe, by the way.
I think I did see that about the aggressiveness with the coaches and how it's been what things people that have used for years. I did see that.
Yeah. Well, and Joe, to his credit, is he started it. So he takes pride in that. He should, by the way. I'm going to read his post. Sorry. My second time I had to apologize to Elon today. So annoyed by people that make a note every time the Eagles are aggressive and it doesn't work, without noticing all the times, which is huge in parentheses, that being aggressive has been a huge part of their persona that has led to huge success. Shouldn't use huge twice, but you understand. Going back 30 years, aggressive organizations win. Joe Banner coming to my rescue. Thank you, Joe.
I still don't think I agree with it, but I agree with it in a sense, but I don't agree with it to the
30 and Joe's defense, 30 years isn't that big of Zander's defense, 30 years isn't that big of a sample size. Actually,
that's big enough.
Actually, I'm being facetious.
Yeah,
it is. So annoyed. That's Joe Banner. That's why I'm in the concussion protocol, in constant concussion protocol.
Yeah, you might want to.
I'm not annoyed as much as I'm frustrated. Like I really don't understand why people don't get that. I really don't. It mystifies me.
Well, can you just at least understand, whether you believe it's right or wrong, and I know you believe it's wrong, that why people would look at it and be like, why in that moment would you go that route? I know that they don't believe that's the right way to win and that's their philosophy, but do you at least understand where some people are coming from?
No, well, I understand the same thing happened to Cincinnati last night. I get it in the moment. I get it in the moment. I really don't get why people can't step away from the moment, at least after the moment, a week after, 2 weeks, when the emotions die down. That's the part I can't get, that they don't see how much it has helped the team overall. That's the part I don't get. After the emotion dies down, I get in the moment. Yeah, they want every play to be successful. I get that.
Yeah.
If it's a failure, the immediate default setting is bad play call, bad decision, whatever, whichever, both in the moment. I get that completely. I don't understand why people don't recognize after that emotion dies down that it's been pretty helpful for this team to be aggressive, to say the least.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's get to a super chat here. Jason, appreciate it, man. Jason, A-Team checks in. Is it the same for Jalen as it is Lamar? Does Jalen get judged by playoff wins, or does he still get judged in season because people doubt his throwing? I mean,
I don't know. By the way, Greg Cosell, my little back and forth with Jalen Hurts, a lot of people were talking about that after the game, where I said he's got a knack for the deep ball. And he said, well, it's the first time he's heard that, which I find that hard to believe, because I know a bunch of people that think he's really good at throwing the deep ball. And Greg Cosell's been getting killed for pointing out the things that Jalen needs to improve on. And he was out there saying, he throws a great deep ball. Even Greg Cosell, he throws a great deep ball. Like, who are these people who say Jalen Hurts doesn't throw a good deep ball?
I think that's part of the art of sports nowadays, John. The athletes create, whether it's good or bad. I mean, they create the narratives.
Yeah.
So like the underdog mentality, right? Everybody doubts me.
Yeah. So, getting back to the question, is it the same for Jalen as it is Lamar? Well, it's the same for every quarterback, number one. They get nitpicked to death in any city. Good quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks, mediocre quarterbacks get nitpicked to death. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's ironic. Now, playoffs, certainly, because Jalen has had some success in the playoffs, some failures, as everyone does. Even Tom Brady has failures in the playoffs. But Lamar hasn't had huge run in the playoffs. So I think that part of it's worse for him. Like Jalen played so well on the biggest stage. Now there's some idiots who point out the unforced error in the Super Bowl and take everything good he did in that game away because of one play. I think most people realize he played at a very high level on the biggest stage, a very high level, arguably his best game ever. I really believe that. I believe he was the best player on the field, which I said after the game. I continue to say today. I think he was the best player on the field in the Super Bowl. And the Eagles didn't win the game. So, not a lot of people agree with that because if you don't win, nobody's going to give you credit for playing well for the most part. It's just what it is. But Lamar hasn't had that kind of performance in the playoffs. But Lamar's the best player in the world.
He's going to,
I
going
firmly
to the
believe
AFC
that.
too. You think he's better than Patrick?
Yes.
Talent-wise?
Oh, God, yes. Well, he's better than everybody talent-wise. God, yes. Nobody has that talent. Did you see that play?
I mean, he's an insane athlete, but you think he's like a better quarterback than Patrick?
I think he's the best player in the world. So,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, he can. I get a kick out of it because he's so good running the football. Like people think he can't throw them. He makes some throws that are ridiculous.
He does. You're not wrong about that. I mean, he does make some absurd throws.
He can do everything at an ultra high level. It hasn't always been that way. He grew early in his career. He was way too focused on the tight ends because he felt comfortable, and he had a difficult time getting it outside the numbers. At this stage right now, he can make every throw. He makes every throw. He makes these plays that are, and Patrick does that a lot too. It's not, and people are going to take it as a criticism. Patrick makes unbelievable plays that nobody else can make. But if you force me to pick one again, and it's not in a vacuum, and they have the same situation, right now, Lamar Jackson is the best player in the world. Now, Patrick Mahomes has the team success and all the Super Bowl rings, so most people aren't going to agree with that. And
if you were starting a franchise right now, though, and they put every NFL player in a big draft, and you had the number 1 overall pick, you taking Lamar over Patrick?
I probably wouldn't take either of them. I'd probably take one. I'd probably take Jaden Daniels if it's about growing. That's different to me.
What?
If I'm starting a team right now, they're not good. I'm trying to grow.
Yeah, I more meant like if they did like a redraft the whole thing.
You're saying a vacuum where everybody's playing with the same player and everybody's in the exact same situation, I'm taking Lamar because he's the best player in the world right now at this moment, this snapshot. I used to say the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers was the best player in the world for a very long time. And he's got 1 Super Bowl. So, he's not playing by himself.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I would have taken Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady. I know you're right. Aaron was more talented than Tom for sure.
In the same vacuum, everybody's got the same team, which is never going to happen.
Right.
Same situation. Aaron's going to be more successful because he's better. But it doesn't work that way. And there are plenty of other people trying to win Super Bowls. It's not just quarterback against quarterback. If it was, it would be easy to pick who was going to win.
Yeah, no doubt. John, we got a super chat here. You are going to like this one because I like it. I agree with it. F Body Guy checks in. You might not agree with everything J-Mac has to say, but I guarantee you that all of y'all have repeated a J-Mac talking point around your friends. I definitely do.
Well, I tend to be logical. I try to be logical. I think that's my greatest attribute because I don't care if this team wins or loses. It doesn't matter.
That's what makes you good. That's what makes you.
It doesn't matter to me. And by that, there's a lot of people I like on this team and I root for on a personal level in the organization. And I think that's what people don't understand. It's like you can root for people, and root for people to have success, individuals, and take it away from the team success because the team success encompasses everything and everybody. And it's easy, like the Jalen Hurts point I made about playing in the Super Bowl. Like, how people can watch that game and say, well, he didn't win, and say, take away from his performance is, it's mind-boggling to me. All right, he still played the way he played. But I do realize there's a lot of emotion in football games and fans. And I do realize the emotion clouds it, especially in the moment. But I think it's pretty easy afterwards to acknowledge what's going on. And I think if you look at it that way, it makes it easier.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. F-Body, appreciate the super chat, man. Some nice words for Johnny Mac. I appreciate you checking in, my brother. Let's take our first commercial break here, Johnny Mac. We're getting Les Bowen in hour number 2. Looking forward to talking to Les in he'll be here.
I should have sent the reminder text. I didn't learn there. I'm not learning from my own mistakes, by the way. What you got to do?
What's the logical Johnny Mac take on that? That you
well,
didn't learn
the logical is I got too much shit to do. And I forget.
Yeah. Johnny Mac's doing a lot of shit. All right, everybody. We appreciate y'all being here. Hit that like button for us. Appreciate all of our super chats. Appreciate everybody in here. Dank Bird Gang, good to see you. Cali Baby, Dream Green, Mike Cannon. Appreciate you, Mike. Kenny P. We got a couple Kennys. I think Kenny P and one other Kenny in here. Snake Eyes, Prince Swayze, Eduardo. Appreciate everybody being here, man. Hit that like button, and we'll be back in 3 minutes. Before I get to the break, let me tell you about BetUS, the great people at BetUS. Check out the promo code I just put on your screen. It's YouTube 150. It gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So go check out BetUS. It's betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Use that promo code YouTube 150. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Score and save in Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody. A Football Friday here on Birds 365. Eagles taking on the Cowboys this week, Dallas week, and it doesn't really feel like a Dallas week.
No juice.
Dallas,
no juice.
huh? No
Come
juice,
on,
John. We're
Dallas
juiceless
Cowboys.
here, man.
You got to carry your
Dallas
part of the rivalry, man. If there is no rivalry, if there's no
Competitive games, there's no
if
rivalry.
there's no competitive nature to the game, there's no rivalry. Despite the history, it doesn't matter. I said it yesterday. Yankees, Red Sox, Sixers, Celtics. Doesn't matter. The other team stinks at a particular point in time. The rivalry evaporates. That's where we are here. Nobody thinks the Cowboys have a chance. I kind of agree with them. Now, part of it's injury related, large part of it, but right now it's hard to find a way for the Dallas Cowboys to win this game. And it's in a place, it's in Dallas, Arlington to be specific, but where the Eagles haven't won since 2017, they usually get beaten up when they go down there.
A long time,
I
man.
can't even imagine how Dallas comes out and wins this football game.
That the Super Bowl year we won in Dallas.
Yeah, that's the last time. Yeah.
That's a long time, man.
6 in a
Like,
row.
what, 7
6
or
in a
8
row.
seasons ago, yeah.
I think the 16.8 points per game in that span. So the Eagles have getting trounced a lot. Yeah, it hasn't been good. But things have taken a dark turn for Jerry Jones. Partially his fault, I would argue.
Got a couple
A lot
chats
of
here. I wanted to
it.
ask you about we only have 15 minutes to Les. I wanted to ask you about the edge rushers and will Bryce Huff have a day this weekend? I think they have a chance with this
I think
offensive
it's
line,
hard.
but not Bryce. I mean, just the pass rush in general. But we got a couple of chats I'll get to first. SMD, thanks for being a member here on JAKIB, one of our best supporters. We appreciate you, Marie. She says, "Hey, Johnny Mac, why is Mann doing the kickoffs over Elliott?" It's a good question. I've honestly been wondering the same thing.
Braden is doing most of them. They do occasionally go back to Jake for some situations.
They go to Jake for what, like precision?
It's a good question. Michael won't admit, Michael Clay, why, but yeah, Braden's got a stronger leg, and when they're trying to kick it out, he's typically going to be the guy, and everybody in the NFL seems to be defaulting towards, they've seen enough. So it's back to basically the waste of 10 seconds of everyone's life, and just everybody's kicking touchbacks, and he's got a little bit of a stronger leg. So that's my presumption why they do it. He's a little bit younger. You're also trying to save some of the wear and tear on Jake Elliott. And some people have argued that Jake's not kicking enough. That's why it hasn't been as effective. So I can see both sides of that argument, but Braden's just pretty good at it. So they're letting him do it most of the time. He's been a great punter, by the way, as well. He really settled down the Eagles' punting woes with Aaron Cepas. He's been great. He's been a big pickup.
The legendary Braden Mann.
Yeah.
Love it. Dante checks in, Johnny Mac. Dante says, Who is the most important player Eagles re-sign or bring back? I'm afraid the way Baun is playing, he's going to be too expensive, and I want him to be back. Dante, I will echo your sentiment. Johnny Mack, is he the most important player to bring back right now for the guys on expiring deals?
It would be him or Milton. So yeah, I would go him, Zach Baun, because I mean, Philadelphia's not used to having this kind of linebacker play. Went through the numbers yesterday. He's been right there. He's been one of the best linebackers in the NFL. You know, you can make an argument he's been better than everybody not named Fred Warner, which
is unreal.
It is.
You almost wonder what the happened in his first 5 years that no coach figured out this dude could play linebacker.
That's what Vic was talking about when he got asked the question, do you worry about how other people viewed him? And Vic was like, no, I don't give a shit. Why would I give a shit?
Is what he was basically could have said.
Vic's very honest. He said he didn't know. He didn't know he played like nobody expected he'd play like this. So there's some, Cinderella aspects to this when you're like, all right, what is it? Is this going to end at some point? I can't imagine he keeps playing at the level he's playing. I don't think it's going to be like this. He had the one bad game, so I think there's going to be a few more thrown in there. But he's been very good. And yeah, I mean, if he bets on himself, it's a two-way street. If he bets on himself and he doesn't want to take, there's no doubt in my mind how he will want to sign him to a cost-effective deal. But if he wants to say, hey, let me check out what's out there, I think history says the Eagles are going to have a budget at that position, and they're not going to go above the budget. I compared it earlier this week to running back. Like everybody would say that about running back, but I always knew there were certain players that Howie valued as difference makers that he would veer off course. I always knew those players existed. I don't know they exist at linebacker. I've never heard it. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I can't confirm. Yeah. I can confirm it existed at running back.
Your point is, I know they didn't invest in the running back, but there was always a chance that if the right player came, they would do it. You've never heard that about the.
Never heard that about linebacker. So, if somebody wants to go to a ludicrous level, and he wants to bet on himself. Now, the other side to that is I think Zach Baun is very grateful to this organization. So I think part of the hope is because he didn't get a chance in New Orleans. And all of a sudden, Vic gives him a chance, and he's in this system, and he's excelling in this system. So I think he's going to be willing to give the Eagles a team-friendly deal because of what they did for him. But that's just pure speculation. If he just wants to be the guy that is going for the extra quarter, no matter what, it becomes more of a problem.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mack. Brian Pumper checks in. Jalen Alexander Hurts is nothing short of Greek God. He runs like Barry, IQ like Peyton, mentality of Jordan, and intangibles of LeBron. I think Brian is now being
poor LeBron gets the intangibles category. Come on, Brian. That's the most talented, gifted basketball player that ever lived. He's got to get more than intangibles.
You could maybe argue that Jordan would have been good for the. Nah, Jordan's pretty talented.
I would go Jordan more intangibles.
Right, Jordan had that mentality.
Everything.
Jordan had the killer mentality.
Nobody runs like Barry. All right, IQ like Peyton. No, not quite. Mentality of Jordan. He gave mentality. All right, mentality's fine.
Mentality's good.
Intangibles like LeBron.
What's the difference between mentality and intangibles?
Did it quickly. Yeah. Jalen's a very good quarterback. I don't know why people can't ignore. Does he have flaws? Sure, he has flaws. Everybody's got flaws. I talk about it all the time. He doesn't process quickly enough. That 4th and 3 should have been a touchdown, basically. Should have been a touchdown. if he recognizes it, throws the ball on time, should have been a touchdown. So, you know, there's still areas to improve, but he's a very good quarterback, and he's very unique. So I always say embrace the uniqueness, which some do, and some want to turn him into Tom Brady, which I think if you want to turn him into Tom Brady, probably not going to have success because he does different things than Tom Brady does well.
Prince Swayze checks in. The Honey Badger said Zach Baun is a guy. Honey Badger, I guess, is Tyrann Mathieu. I guess that's who that is, right?
Yeah, I didn't hear him, but I mean, Zach's been playing great. And it's quite the story. You know, the Eagles signed him for 1 year, $1.6 million. He can make up to $3.5 million. He's going to make $3.5 million because, trust me, he's hitting every incentive. But they didn't know either. And Howie talked about the spring meetings about him being an edge rusher more than an off-ball linebacker. So they didn't know either. And Vic has admitted he didn't know. He just got him and he saw and he thought he had some upside at off-ball linebacker. So nobody knew. I doubt even Zach Baun knew.
Yeah, I bet you're probably right about that.
So it's been a great story, and hopefully it continues.
Brian Garner checks in. Appreciate everybody on the super chats today, man. Been great. We'll have Les Bowen coming up in 6 minutes about here on Birds 365. Hopefully Johnny keeps saying. I think Les is good for today. I don't think he's gonna flake on us 2 days in a row. Not that he meant to yesterday. Brian Garner says, watch the all 22. The communication on defense in the first half will bring a tear to your eye. Hearing Dean talk about the route he caught an interception on at the beginning of the game was awesome. Did you see that, John?
Yeah, man. You know, him and Baun, you know, handing off mesh concepts to each other without a hiccup. I always talk about this defense, first and foremost, back seven, communication. That's what means the most. And the fact that they haven't been together for a long time, and Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell as rookies have played the way that they played. Communication is everything in this defensive scheme because of how many different zone coverages that they use. And a lot of them are, you know, have band principles until you have to let them go out of your zone. That makes it more complicated for young players. And you've seen it. I mean, they played at the highest level of this league contextually in 2022, and they broke down at the worst point with the Super Bowl on the line. So there's always going to be hiccups, and there were on the 2-point conversions. You know, that wasn't good, either of those. But to have such a young group who hasn't played together, and this is where Vic is the, you know, shows up because he can teach it better than his students or the people that have copied him. It's always better to have the original, and the Eagles now have the original as opposed to the Xerox copy. You're muted.
Sorry, Mike came undone there. Johnny Mac, good stuff, man. Appreciate everybody in the chat right now. Up to 77 likes. Can we boost that number, everybody? It's a football Friday. Come on, Prince. Come on, Kenny. Hit that like button for us, everybody. We appreciate you guys checking in. Let's get to at least 100 likes. I mean, we got Les Bowen on coming on. I think we should be at 150, 200, 250. But here we are down at 77. Not looking good right now on the like
Dallas,
button.
no juice. I blame it on Dallas.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll put the blame right on that. There we go. 88. We just got a quick 11 likes there. You guys respond.
Freaking Cowboys. Help me out, Cowboys. Come on.
Yeah, if you think the Cowboys suck, then hit the like button. If you say fuck the Cowboys, Hit the
Whoa,
like
we got
button.
our first F-bomb.
Well, John, we didn't have one yesterday. One guy commented at the end of the show, "You got to be kidding me. I waited the whole show for an F-bomb and didn't get one." So I had to give the people something.
Well,
here
there's
early in the show.
no juice. I tend to only drop the F-bombs when there's a little bit of juice. And the Cowboys
sometimes you got
don't
to get the
provide.
juice.
The Cowboys haven't provided any juice. There's no concern. It's weird.
And it is as Kevin Savard points out, it is a fuck it Friday. It is a football effort Friday, no doubt. All right, let's get to our commercial break. We'll have Les Bowen coming up. We're up over 100 likes. So
If
thank
Les
you guys,
doesn't
man.
show up, I'm going to drop an F-bomb.
Yeah, if Les doesn't show up,
Still going to be my fault, but I'm going to drop an F-bomb. Probably by myself, at myself.
Good stuff, everybody in the chat. Let's get to our commercial break. Before I do that, let me tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. You can see the promo code on the screen. It's YouTube 150, and that promo code gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit and 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa for the fastest payouts in the industry and 24/7 customer support. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, on Birds 365 with Les Bowen.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. Joined now by the great Les Bowen. Les, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you back on. How you doing on this Friday morning?
I'm great. Profuse apologies for yesterday.
That's my fault, Les.
It's kind of my fault. It was a few days before that you asked me to do it, and I totally forgot.
Yeah.
And I actually scheduled a session with my trainer during the time that I was supposed
There we
to
go.
do your show.
All right. That's
I've learned to roll over and sit, but that thing where you have to balance the treat on your nose, and I screw that up every time.
Yeah. Well, that's me. I gotta send the reminder. But I'm so caught up in the excitement of a Dallas week. Boy, there's no juice to this. Les, you've been around for a lot of these Eagles Cowboys week. It's gotten so bad in Dallas. I mean, the Eagles haven't won there in forever.
Yeah.
And this looks like a road apple for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. It's amazing how quickly things change in the NFL.
It is. It is. I would be a little wary, though. I mean, I know it's going to be Cooper Rush, and that the Cowboys have gone really bad. They're having but this is going to be a rally around the flag game for them.
That's true.
Right. And they're getting Micah Parsons back.
Yeah.
And I think the Eagles are going to have to play well. I mean, they should win, but if they go down there and just, we've got this, I think they'll lose. It is, but sometimes those kind of games can be the toughest. The ones where, it should be a great rivalry, but one team is really struggling and, there's not a lot of emotion involved. You have to be really kind of careful about that.
Yeah, no doubt. Les, how you seeing this team now? We're at 6-2. I think they've kind of found some real rhythm, in my opinion, in the last couple of weeks. I think they're finally playing some complementary, cohesive football. What's your overall take on where the team is right now as compared to the last time we talked to you about 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, a great improvement offensively and defensively. I'd still like to see the offense running a little more smoothly and not depending so much on Saquon Barkley and big plays. I'd like to see the passing game, get more consistent, but that's a very minor quibble. The defense, it's definitely a lot better. I'm still not real happy with the pass rush on a consistent basis. I think in that Jaguars game, once Trevor Lawrence started getting the ball out reasonably quickly, it kind of disappeared. But there were a lot of real weird circumstances in that game, and I think the defense overall played well. And obviously, Cooper DeJean has made a tremendous difference there.
Yeah,
the linebacking has been so good the last couple of weeks, which are, the linebacking isn't something you ever expect to really talk about in those terms with the Eagles. So, yeah, I feel good about the team. I don't think they're there yet. I think, if you look at a team like Detroit, they're not quite in that realm, and I think they still have a lot of things. I think they need to keep the foot on the pedal, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't think they've accomplished anything really. They've won 4 in a row, but they have a tough stretch coming up after this game.
Yeah. I think that tough stretch, Washington to Baltimore, I think that's going to really give us an indication what this team is. I do want to talk
about the
Rams.
The Rams are kind of putting it back together.
That whole stretch. Yeah. So it goes Washington, Rams, Baltimore. Yeah. I think that's the stretch that's going to tell you what the Eagles really are, and we'll see. But you got to get by this human nature game. Yeah, I want to talk to you about Bryce Huff, but before I got to talk about Zach Baun, because you said something, and I believe we always talk about running back and linebacker, and you've been around this team for a long time, Les. I always knew there were outliers that Howie Roseman loved at running back. Christian McCaffrey back in 27 loved him. The Eagles would have drafted him. Bijan Robinson, they loved him. They weren't going to take him in the top 10, but if he started to fall a little bit, they were going to consider and go up. I've never heard that about linebacker. I've never said, but if this guy were there, they might have gone off script to their devaluing or however you want to describe the position. Have you ever heard of that name? Because I can't come up with one. And I'm starting to think Zach Baun is playing at this level. Are they going to sign him?
I hope so. I hope they are. But as far as the draft goes, you really don't draft linebackers in the first round that much. I mean, if you look at the best linebackers in the league, how many of them were drafted in the first round? Fred Warner certainly wasn't. I think he was 3rd round, if I'm not mistaken.
Roquan, but there's Roquan was a top 10 pick. Devin White was a top 10.
Yeah,
pick.
I was about to say that. Devin
Yeah,
White.
Devin
nothing
White was a
works.
top 5 pick, wasn't
Top
he?
5 pick.
Yeah, that
Didn't work
you know,
out.
I mean, they've drafted linebackers, although not real recently. They've drafted them as high as the 2nd round. The problem is they've drafted the wrong ones. Yeah.
Michael Kendricks was okay for a short
Yeah,
period, but
he certainly was. Yes,
Yeah.
but you know they've blown picks on linebackers many times. But the signing them is a much more valid criticism. I mean, TJ Edwards, people like that they just aren't interested in giving a second contract to. It's hard to reconcile, and it's hard to argue that wasn't part of what happened last season. You know, that devaluing that position so completely, and just to me, Howie has had a sort of whatever we end up with there, we'll just go with it, you know, kind of attitude toward that position a lot of years. And it's a couple times it's really bit him in the butt, frankly.
Yeah, now you see
there's a difference between draft one in the 1st round and I don't care what we put out there.
and guys like Zach Baun are proving how valuable you could be at that position.
Yes, and certainly we're talking about Vic Fangio now, you know, and his defense. And he was talking the other day about great linebackers he has known, you know, in that response to a question. And it kind of reinforced for me, this guy always has really, you mentioned Roquan Smith, you know, I mean, this guy's had great linebackers wherever he's gone and done well. And I think they're going to have to sort of recognize that.
Yeah, and I think Zach wouldn't be playing as good maybe if he wasn't paired up with Vic Fangio, who's really good at making linebackers great. Les, you think they're going to – I mean, we talked about extending him, and I know it's maybe too early for that conversation, but, boy, if he keeps up this, I mean, the way he's playing right now as a top 10 linebacker, really, I think a top 5, top 7, somewhere up there, he might be expensive. You know, a lot of Eagles fans think about TJ Edwards, and I know he's a different player, but we let him walk for $7 million a year. You know, at what point does Zach Baun get too expensive and they don't bring him back?
I don't know. I don't know how they feel about it. I got to think they understand what a difference he's made. I don't think TJ Edwards was certainly much better than what they replaced him with, but TJ Edwards was not this good.
Zach is changing the game.
TJ was a little bit limited player. He wasn't good in coverage. He was a very good run stopper, and he was smart, and he was durable and all that stuff. But Zach Baun is playing the position at a level the Eagles haven't seen in probably more than 20 years, since the prime of like Trotter and Emmons and guys like that. I got to think they understand that, and that Fangio will explain it to them if they don't. Is it going to be easy just to do a deal, though? If I'm his agent, I got to think the rest of the league is noticing how well this guy's playing. And, you know, maybe I want to see what he's worth. Maybe I want to get – I mean, Howie's not going to do a market – you know, top of the market.
No, he's going to want the team-friendly deal.
Exactly.
So you got to hope that Zach is great. And I know he's grateful. I've talked to him that the Eagles have given him a chance to prove what he could be. But how far does that go? You know, I mean.
And you know his agent's in his ear like, hey, guys, or hey, Zach, the Eagles don't pay linebackers very well. I'm sure there's plenty of other teams who will give you top dollar.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to hope at least that maybe there's a component of this being the right setup for him that's making him play so well, that it's not just that this guy is an incredible linebacker and the Saints never saw it. Maybe it's that this system really fits him and he understands that it might not go the same way somewhere else, you know?
Yeah.
Hope.
That plays into it as well. All right. We go from the high to the low. Bryce Huff. You know, we talked to Bryce yesterday, Les, And he says he was good to go, fine to play. So something weird is going on. He played 6 snaps. Now he did legitimately hurt his wrist pregame, but he said he could have played. And he played 1 snap early, didn't play again until the very end of the game. And he played about 4 or 5 more. I forget the exact number. He said he's a full go this week. Tom Pelissero mentioned, usually trade rumors are complete bullshit, but Tom, I perk up a little bit when he mentioned Bryce Huff. I don't know how they would have done it, but
the dead cap would have been a real disincentive.
Yeah. Jeffrey Lurie, though, has proven, hey, he'll accept it. He probably won't like it, but he'll accept it at least. Is this salvageable at this point, or is this just a guy that Vic doesn't like and doesn't think he should be playing?
Well, I think we're trending in that direction. I think we're going to see a lot this week. What Vic said about, hey, if a guy isn't 100%, I don't like having him out there. I kind of believe that, but what Huff said sort of contradicted that a little bit. But let's see how much he gets used this week. If it's 8 snaps or something, then we've got our answer. If he's back into what he was doing previously, then I got to think they want to make this work. I mean, they've invested a lot of money here, and it's not like they're overflowing. I mean, it's not like everybody else on the edge is playing so great that they can't possibly get this field.
And I would argue Josh is playing too much now. Again, that was a problem last year where Josh Sweat sort of worn down, and Brandon's playing too much.
Yeah.
I mean, even at 36, I said it was kind of counterintuitive. I said all year, Les, that I think Brandon's going to play more this season because he can empty the tank knowing he's going to retire. And that is shaken out. But at some point, it's too much.
Yeah, it is. And in fact, as much as I love Brandon, he's one of my favorite players ever. It's kind of dropped off a little bit, frankly. If you look at Pro Football Focus and stuff like that, the mileage, he can't play that many snaps at 36 and be effective. He really can't as the season goes on. And it's good that Nolan Smith is stepping up. But, I don't know if they can afford to write off Bryce Huff, frankly. We'll see. But since they didn't do anything at the trade deadline, which I thought was sort of okay given how well the team overall is playing.
Yeah, I agree.
The only big move at edge rusher was from a team that lost the best edge rusher in the league.
Yeah.
Had to do something. The Eagles weren't desperate enough to jump into that sweepstakes. And it wasn't like there were 5 other ones, that were moving around. But it's not like they have a great surplus of talent there. So I would keep working with Bryce Huff if I were them.
Yeah.
Easy for me to say. But
I think it's a different – good.
Yeah, you go ahead, Zander.
I think it's a different ball game to take $30 million in dead cap on a quarterback versus a edge rusher, right? I mean, your quarterback dictates the entire direction of your franchise. Versus an edge rusher is like, look, I'm not taking $30 million. Just rotate him in as much as you can. Get something out of him. I think that's probably the mindset right now.
Yeah. That's kind of what I would be thinking. Absolutely.
Yeah. How about Jordan Davis, Les? Where are you on him? I think John Point talks all the time about he's kind of a misunderstood player, but you could argue, I mean, he's getting like 20 snaps a game right now. He was the 13th overall draft pick, supposed to be one of the best defensive players. I mean, I know he's a nose and I know he's limited, but at what point do you look at him and be like, boy, this guy was not worth what we paid to get him?
You don't draft a guy who only plays on rundowns 13th overall. I mean, that's crazy.
That's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
It isn't, 1980. Even though running is up in the league this year, it's just not something that you could get a guy like that in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th round, to do that job. Maybe he wouldn't be as big or as strong as Jordan Davis, but you can plug that hole without spending the 13th overall pick in the draft. And they certainly hoped he would develop into more than he has developed into. And I think that's a real shame and a real problem for them, frankly, given, what we were talking about on the edge. At least Jalen Carter has really, I think, solidified. For a while there, I was very frustrated. He would show up real big one week and everybody would be all giddy. And then the next 3 weeks it'd be like, where is he? He's getting double teamed, but now you're really seeing him fight through stuff and play well. But drafting Jordan Davis 13th overall, it does not look good, frankly.
All right, let's talk about the offense last now, and I want to get your thoughts coming up because of the whole kerfuffle over Nick Sirianni's decision making.
Yeah.
Also, you had Lane's comments about going back to the 2021 mentality.
Yeah.
And your old buddy Jeff McClain on his podcast pointed out, all these people say, "Hey, get Nick out of the way." It's actually they've reverted back to more of what Nick did in 2021. Where are you in the whole Nick Sirianni situation? I can't believe the Eagles didn't know this was coming when they had this set up the way they set it up.
Right.
But it seems to overwhelm everything. Like, we spent 4 days. We probably would have talked more to you about it earlier in the week. All people talked about. They didn't talk about the game. They talked about Nick Sirianni this, Nick Sirianni that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's unbelievable to me.
There are two elements of this. One is the decision making and the fourth downs and the 2-point conversions. And that's the one. I don't mind being aggressive in those situations. And I think if you get a penalty on an extra point, I think every coach in the league goes for 2 from the 1 yard line.
Well, they should. At
least you have to make it. That's the problem. And I think they did on the first one, but for whatever reason, I've never seen a game where Gene Steratore says twice that he thinks the Eagles are going to get the replay and then they don't.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, I think what exasperates people about that stuff, I was thinking about that this morning. You know how the Phillies use an analytic-based approach to hitting. You take the big swings and you go for the home run, you strike out a lot, and it drives fans crazy when it doesn't work.
Drives me crazy.
Well, it's the same thing with this. I mean, theoretically, you could go for 2 every time, and if you made it half the time, you'd have as many points as if you kicked off 4 extra points or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you go for it and don't make it, I think people get really, really upset. And some kind of 4th and 3 long throw to AJ Brown, you have to have, to me anyway, if you're going to go for it on 4th and 3 when you have an easily makeable field goal, you have to have a slam dunk play like the one in the Atlanta game that Saquon Barkley dropped. Nonetheless, it was a slam dunk play. All the guy has to do is catch the ball, a little lob.
I would argue that was a slam dunk. That was a touchdown last. If Jalen throws that ball on time, that was a touchdown.
So, but you don't run elaborate plays on 2-point conversions or 4th and 3. You don't have the quarterback running around back there looking for somebody. You get in and you get it done. And, they need to evaluate whether they can do the tush push as much as they do it with Fred Johnson in there instead of Mailata, frankly. I don't think they're getting the push. Obviously there's no Kelsey either. I don't think you get rid of that at all. I think it's a great play, but maybe you look at it a little bit differently than you looked at it last year, given your current personnel setup. And I think you go for it when you have a real, okay, we know we can do this. You don't go for it like, maybe we can run this play over here.
I kind of looked at it from a different perspective. Like the only decision I had a problem with was going away from the tush push on the 4th
and inches. Yes.
Yeah.
God.
So I thought there, and to your point, last Gene's territory, and I didn't even hear the TV broadcast, but like I thought they got in on certainly one of those
The
touch
first
pushes
one,
at the
yes.
goal line.
Sterator definitely thought they got in. And then he was pretty sure that the fumble would be overturned.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we all were too.
Yeah.
But so from my standpoint, I'm like, look, sometimes the calls don't go your way. Look at
Right.
Cincinnati last night. Sometimes the calls don't go your way. That's not going to waver me off the tush push on 4th and inches. So that's the
Right.
one where I said, come on. I mean, that they got a little bit too cute with.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about when you don't have the quarterback running around back there on 4th down. You know, I mean, they certainly hadn't stopped it on 4th and inches. You know, and
your old buddy Joe Banner was out there. So I want to read you Joe's quote. And Joe, you know, we know Joe, but you know, likes to take credit. But so this is what Joe Banner said. So annoyed by people that make a note every time the Eagles are aggressive and it doesn't work, without noticing all the times that being aggressive has been a huge part of their persona that has led to huge success going back 30 years. Aggressive organizations win. I got to admit, I'm on board with Joe there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. In fact, you remember a couple games ago, they threw a long touchdown pass to A.J. Brown on 4th down.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think anybody was bitching about that too much.
No.
I don't, you know, that's a little bit of a red herring, I guess, just because this game, it just seemed like everything.
Yeah, everything went. A lot of 50-50 calls didn't go their way.
Now, as far as the second part of the Sirianni thing, which is what offense are they running? I don't know. I mean, I see other analysts. I know what Jeff said. I see other analysts claiming that this is the Kellen Moore. I don't have any idea.
Yeah. Well, nobody knows. Yeah. It is Kellen. Kellen's running the show. I mean, you even get little flippant answers. Like I always say, you know, like Jalen will say, well, new play caller, Kellen's calling the play. Kellen did that just off the wall. So it's not like you know he's telling the truth versus these people that think, oh, it's a bad play call. That must be Nick versus a good play call. Kellen's running the show. I just think he's a good offensive coordinator and he's working with what's working right now.
Right.
Which makes, you know, to me, it's common sense. That's what you do. And the Eagles have a really good offensive line and a really good running back. Yeah. And they've gone back to that 2021 mentality when I think people forget they had like that run last where they had, it was like 5 or 6 games over 175 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm. But in 2021, the Eagles didn't really go anywhere.
No. Well,
I know, but I think one of the things of this conversation that's interesting is that the collapse last year has overtaken everything in everybody's mind. And what I mean by that is if they see any play that looks like a Nick Sirianni play, they immediately hate it. And I would point to, well, Jalen Hurts was nearly an MVP in this offense. They did go 30-2 or whatever it was in a certain period with this offense. If you see a play that looks like Nick's play from the past, that doesn't mean it's bad. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Kellen came in and said, hey, Nick, you were really successful with Jalen Hurts in this offense. What could I take from you and apply it to my philosophy? I think that's completely fair.
Right.
Yeah.
As for what they're doing right now, though, in the playoffs against a good defense, you're going to load up the box.
Yeah. They got to get the passing game going.
Yes. They do. And not just once in a while a long rainbow for a touchdown. I mean, it has to click, you know, going down the field with the run as part of it, but not the whole operation. And I don't see that yet. You know, I'm not trying to be hypercritical of Jalen Hurts, but it just doesn't really go that way. It seems like so often he's standing back there looking, and throws the ball away or gets sacked or whatever. I'd really like to see that get worked out. And I wanted to ask you, John, we've got Dallas Goedert coming back now.
Yeah.
It seemed to me like he liked throwing the ball. He was more willing to throw the ball to Calcaterra than he was to Dallas Goedert. For some reason, I don't understand that, but nothing against Grant Calcaterra. But did you see it that way?
I don't know much, but he trusts Grant. They've known each other since Oklahoma. I do think when it comes to the second level guys, whatever you want to call them, Jahan Dotson, Jack, he trusts Grant. Like to me, it's very difficult for Jalen to trust people. Yes. I think you trust AJ, you trust Devontae, you trust Dallas, and Grant's that first guy of the second tier that he really trusts.
Yeah,
I think it's a positive, Grant Calcaterra. But
I just wonder if they'll stop throwing to the tight end if it ends up being Goddard.
Yeah. I think that's a deficiency of Jalen. If you need to trust somebody so much, because doesn't that kind of it puts you in like you're thinking too much versus just reading what you're seeing on the field and letting the ball fly. Like John points to that, and I point to it too. I mean that Kirk Cousins play when I forget it was earlier in the year, and somebody went down and it was in overtime.
Yeah, it was
and the third or fourth receiver came in, and boom! I mean, he broke over the middle, and Kirk Cousins threw the ball. He wasn't thinking about, do I trust him? That's what the play said. That's what the read was, and he went.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Jahan Dotson. You mentioned Jahan Dotson. You saw what he can do Sunday. One of the best catches of the year.
Yeah, that was
the only time he was targeted. I see fans giving all kinds of crap to Jahan Dotson. He hasn't done anything. They don't use him. They use him. He's out there on the field. The quarterback just doesn't throw the ball to him.
Yeah.
Well, and I think with Dallas, because he's got so much talent, I think we all expected the George Kittle numbers at some point or the Travis Kelce.
Yes.
I mean, he caught there. And he's always hurt for like 3 or 4 games. And he caught 56, 55, 59. Like Jalen trusted Dallas. There were stretches there where it was really impressive. I just think that he never had that big spike season we all expected.
Dallas has made some pretty incredible catches off Jalen's throws, even one in the Super Bowl. So he should trust Dallas Goedert for sure.
I definitely think so.
I have a question for both you guys. And Les, I'm going to get your take first. But John, I want you to also give me an answer on this. You guys just brought up the passing game, and I think the point is well taken. They have to improve in that, or else they're not going to beat the best teams. Kellen Moore was not brought to Philadelphia to improve the running game. He was brought here to improve the passing game. So by that metric, through 9 weeks, has he been a letdown for this Eagles organization?
I wouldn't say that. You are seeing some things from Jalen, like the 4 games with no turnovers. That's a significant improvement. You have to work with what you've got, and I don't see Kellen telling Jalen not to throw the ball over the middle or, not targeting that receiver. I don't really blame it on Kellen very much. I don't know enough about the inside workings of the operation, but I think, the offense is running however it's going reasonably well. And I do think the running game was a big component of his offenses. Certainly in Dallas.
When he had good running backs when Ezekiel was young. And I think that's the mark of a good offensive coordinator.
With the Chargers, Austin Eckler. I don't think he's – I mean, you're right. He wasn't brought here for the running game, but I think he's certainly used the running game in his previous offenses.
Right.
I think good coordinators take advantage of what they have.
Right.
I really do. I mean, I think everybody's hyper-focused on you have to do it one way. And I think that, no, you go in there, you see, all right, Saquon Barkley's playing phenomenally. All right, let's ride him. The question is.
But let's be clear-eyed about he's not going to do this for 17 games and then all
right. And that's where the question comes in. What's the bar? Like if he doesn't reach X bar in the passing game, at what point do you say, okay, it's not enough?
Yeah,
because Jalen, I mean, they did have a good passing game in 22.
Yeah, they did.
So
I'm not enough of a maven to really know if it's a matter of defenses permanently taking away some things that they were real comfortable with in 2022 that just aren't going to come up again because defenses.
I think that Baltimore game's going to be a test because Baltimore's going to score some points, and you're probably going to have to keep up with them, and that'll be a good test because eventually, if you go where you want to go, and you see Detroit, well, they're going to score some points, and you're going to have to keep up with them.
And you'll be in Baltimore, and it'll be loud, and that's going to be. I hope they have Mailata back by then. Frankly, nothing against Fred Johnson, but he kind of goes up and
Fred's
down.
He
has a great week against Cincinnati, and then last week,
right.
Fred's done a wonderful job as a backup player.
He's a fill-in, and you can't expect.
Not Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Big V was filling in for Jason Peters.
Right.
They were very lucky, to get through that and win the Super Bowl with that. But they gave him a lot of help, and they didn't expect him to be Jason Peters. And, Fred Johnson is not Jordan Mailata by a long shot.
He is not.
Yeah. He'd be making a lot more money and starting somewhere if he were.
True.
You know what, though? I think he might get a starting job out of this.
That's quite possible.
Or at least the contract. Andre Dillard got the big contract. Remember when he lost out to Mailata? He hasn't quite panned out.
Nice guy, but
if Jeff Stoutland can't get it out of you, I don't think anybody can get it out of you.
Well, you've heard my Andre Dillard thing about how I met his high school coaches his rookie year in training camp.
Yeah, I remember
that. I was talking to them about how they basically had to sort of coax him onto the team and convince him that he was good enough to be on the varsity as a freshman.
Wow.
And in retrospect, at the time, it was a funny story.
Yeah.
In retrospect, this is a guy that, it was never his passion.
It was never a burning desire.
Eagles went through that with Danny Watkins as well back in the day.
Yeah, a lot more pronounced in Danny's case. But Andre just never believed in himself that much. I don't think he ever thought he was a great player, and I don't think he ever,
wanted it.
Confidence is a big thing in this sport.
Yeah, it really is.
At Les Bowen, make sure you follow Les on the X platform, doing a tremendous job with PHLY with our buddies Zach Berman and Bo Wolf as well. So you can read Les there. And always a pleasure. Now, Les has confidence in himself. No Andre Dillard issues there. So he's been doing this.
Oh, God. Maybe sometimes. I don't know.
Les, thanks for joining, man. We appreciate you joining.
Good seeing you, buddy.
Good to talk to you. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Les. Great stuff there from Les Bowen. Love getting Les on. I thought he had great insight today, Johnny Mac. I thought on Nick, on Jalen.
Les has been covering this team for a long time.
Yes, he has, man. He knows his shit for sure, and he brings a good, really a good perspective to the conversation. Great to have him on. Johnny Mac. It's prediction time, my friend. Eagles, Cowboys, Week 10. Birds are 6-2. I think the Cowboys are 3-5.
3-5. Les brought up a good point. This is like the last stand for the Dallas Cowboys in this season. If they lose this game,
they're done.
They're probably not going to be relevant, moving forward, certainly in the NFC East. So the desperation aspect, but you know what? The human nature aspect, all of that factored in. I just can't see a path to victory for the Dallas Cowboys. It's amazing to me that I'm talking about AT&T Stadium and the Eagles. I consider the Eagles not only a favorite, but a heavy favorite. I just think there's not enough horses for the Dallas Cowboys right now. And this is going to be another somewhat easy win for the Philadelphia Eagles. And, I'm expecting a 34-17 type of game. I don't even think it's going to be in dispute in the fourth quarter. Unless some crazy things happen again.
34-17 is a good one. This guy's got 34-18 right in there, right? You're right in my range too. I mean, how are the Cowboys going to score a lot of points this week? I mean, they've been struggling to score points with Dak Prescott.
I mean, you can manage a game with a quarterback like Cooper Rush, and if he doesn't make mistakes, you can get over the hump. But you can't run the football. So how are you going to do that? I just don't see it. I don't see it for the Cowboys right now.
I do not see it at all either for the Cowboys. We've got a couple super chats to get before we get it, but I'm going to put my score out there. I think it's a 31-10 game for the Eagles. I don't think they're going to score quite as many points as people think. 31 is no drop in the bucket. That's a pretty good amount of points on the board, but 31-10, I just don't see how the Cowboys score points. And I think by that point, I think the Eagles might, I don't want to say they're going to bench everybody, but I think they might get Gainwell in a little more, get Shipley in a little more, give AJ
manage,
Brown,
baby, manage it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, this isn't a typical week. You have the Commanders, who are a tougher opponent, and
you would love to get some
game
rest.
you're fighting for the NFC East there on a Thursday night. So they might try and manage it, get that lead early, and then kind of coast to the finish here. And I don't think the Cowboys are any threat at all offensively. So I have 31-10 Birds.
Yeah, I think they're going to be able to manage some guys, and with that short week understanding. And that's been a positive recently with the Giants and Bengals games as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's get to these two super chats, Johnny Mac, before we get out of here. I want to thank everybody. We're up to 150 likes on the dot. So thank you all for checking in, for hitting that like button on this Football Friday. I thought Les Bowen was fantastic today. So if you enjoyed the Les Bowen interview, make sure you guys hit that like button. Let's check in with Terry Hayes, my main man. Terry, giving us the updates. His high school is officially 10-0, Johnny Mac.
Whoa.
We spanked the playoff game last week, 41-14, and we're playing tomorrow against an 8-2 team. First time in 99 years we've been 10-0.
99 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah, perfect. You got to finish.
I know where Terry's at because I love when I like high school football. It's a great. And when I was in
1972 Miami Dolphins, you got to finish it.
You got to finish it. Terry, finish it strong, baby. And he said he's got the Birds beating the Cowboys 41-10. Holy shit, I had 31-10. You got another 10 on the board, Terry. Terry, appreciate the Superman. Appreciate you checking in. Great stuff, brother. And then Jarrell checks in. J-Max take stinks. He said this before Les Bowen, so I forget what we were talking about. The offense, besides left guard, is paid up till 2029. Howie is about to have nothing but defense to worry about for the next couple seasons.
I literally don't even know what take he's talking about. What did I say?
Is he talking about were we having a conversation about paying Zach Baun before Les? Sometimes it all flows together. You don't even remember what we were talking about.
Look, my point on Zach Baun, if it's about Zach Baun, is about the position, not the money. They have the money.
Jarrell, please clarify in the chat. I see you still in there. If you clarify,
they have the money to do it. The problem is they've never wanted to pay that position at the market rate. And if Zach Baun wants to bet on himself and go to free agency, there will be a team willing to pay more. Will Howie go to that level? He's never done it at that particular position. That's all I'm talking about. I don't know how anybody can even debate that. I mean, that's his history at that particular position. I don't. It's not about being able to pay him. Of course, they're able to pay him. Will they want to pay that position?
Right. So he followed up. That is what he was talking about. What I'm saying is Baun won't leave and Howie has no reason not to. Now, you pointed to the offense being under contract. Yeah, but I do think some of those cap hits are increasing. Now, the salary cap's going to increase. I mean, Howie does a pretty good job at managing all that. So
but it's not about the amount of money. They could pay him whatever they want. The question is, do they want to pay that position? There's no evidence that they wanted to pay that position to this point. Again, there's been outliers at running back. I can't, and I asked Les, so it's not just me.
Right. He said no. But Les did bring up a great point when he said, you got to think they see the difference it's made.
Hopefully. That's what hopefully they do.
I mean,
I said the same thing. Hopefully they do. But to this point, there's been no evidence of it. So I don't know how that's even a take. It's facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jarrell, I see what you're saying, but honestly, I mean, my worry is that Zach's agent is right there, and he's like, listen, I know you love Philly, but you got one chance here to make a shit ton of money. You're 27 years old. You can sign a 3-year deal. Let's go get the max amount of money possible. And I don't think you're getting that in Philly. I mean, I think that's if I was an agent, I would say that to my client. I would say,
yeah,
if you're good here and you're good taking a little bit less and you love playing with Vic and you love playing next to Nakobe, that's great. I'll get the deal done with Philly. But you might be able to make an extra $10 million.
Yeah, and that's what you should do as an agent. I already pointed out, I've already talked to Zach about this. He's very aware and very grateful of the opportunity he's gotten here. So hopefully that plays into it as well, which I mentioned. So, hopefully he's willing
what do you
to.
think Baun's going to get on a per year basis?
Yeah, it's too early to tell. I mean, look, it's half a season. So if you're betting on yourself, if you're betting on yourself, you got to play at this level for an entire season. Then you talk about what he's going to generate. And then you talk about some of the best linebackers in football, which the Eagles have not been going at that level. Look at Patrick Queen, for instance. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's what you're talking about. Because Patrick Queen, he's got the pedigree and all that kind of stuff as a former
3 years,
first-round pick.
$41 million.
But he's never played at this level. So that's a guy I would throw out there right away as a significant type of contract. Is he going to reach Roquan Smith, Brad Warner? Probably not. Not with just one season, but Patrick Queen, that might be a good comp.
We'll see what ends up happening there. Johnny Mac, great week of shows this week here on Birds 365. I want to thank all of our great viewers for being here every single day. We have a great fan base, the people that listen to Birds 365. Can't thank all you guys enough for hitting that like button, for commenting, for leaving your thoughts. I always read all the comments on JAKIB, even try to during the show because it's hard to during, but after the show, I always read all the comments left on the video. So make sure you guys always leave your thoughts. I appreciate each and every one of you. Johnny Mac, great show. And I will catch you on Sunday for the pre and post game show, brother.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. No juice. Eagles over Cowboys 34-17.
31-10 for me and 34-17 for J-Mac. Appreciate everybody in the chat. We will catch you on Sunday, everybody. And for those who love the National Football Show, we'll catch you at 2 o'clock today, 2 to 6 Eastern. Thanks, everyone.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.